Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's Hank and Dr. K with a episode of Emergence and Being, talking all about being the space of grace. And you know, we're actually following through on our topic discussions from last week now. And my thing did not work, Dr. K. So I don't know.
Is it
You
another
know,
full moon or
I
something?
don't know.
Moon.
So no,
Mercury
I
retrograde.
no, it's okay. I will just remove. I will do this a different way, but I'm sad that my plan didn't work. Though I have my computer in the shop, and maybe I just need an actual desktop device and not doing it this way. But anyway, welcome everybody. Sorry for my little technology glitch. I'm just adding my thing to the feed instead. So, space of grace. I appreciate everybody's space of grace for me and my wonderful technology wonders. A Nike Kaliki. No, but seriously, why don't we start by defining what do we mean when we say grace? That might be a great place to start.
Yes. What do you all think that grace is? That's always the common question. What does grace mean to you? If anybody wants to contribute, or we're just going to have to contribute.
Yeah. Well, we just have a couple people watching. But if you're watching and you're brave, what does the word grace, when we say space of grace and you think of being given grace or giving grace, what does that mean to you? And I can say for myself, if I didn't already have an idea about this topic, I always think I go back to church and things. Like I've been conditioned to think that it's like the space of grace from this God that loves you unconditionally, but will send you to hell for misbehaving.
Oh, isn't that interesting, right? That's how I grew up
It,
too.
and but really, so what is grace? Like grace, you know, Tom Kratzley, who is one of the healers at Fellowships of the Spirit, he said for him, and this is just a cool thing to start with, the space of grace renders all mistakes temporary, or something like of that nature, if I remember the way he said it. That all mistakes, all sin that you would have made is just erased. It's not really a big deal.
Right.
Let's see.
It's
Uh,
ease. I think it is ease. The ease of life when things just flow. That's a part of grace. I think grace can have, multiple meanings for people. So that's why I'm just curious and asking others, what does grace mean to them?
yeah, Debbie says that grace is no judgments and caring.
Non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to? We're putting people on the spot this morning.
Well,
I'm just
well, we do have Mark coming in saying greatness is
curious.
back. He's very excited. I'm glad you're not in prison, Mark. I'm glad that
We
you're
were
able to
worried. We were
be
very
here
worried.
for our debut too, for our second week back on. And we have Magic Mike just chiming in saying hello. But we got several people watching now. If you have an idea for you, what is grace? What is that for you? And if you don't have a personal belief about it, what have you been taught about it? What have you been taught that it means? And it may or may not
Just
feel
go.
alive for you.
Oh, I don't know what happened.
What
Something
happened?
got. I don't know. My screen went black and I lost you. Is it full moon? It's got to be. Anyway, so I think I always comment on living life with ease and grace. So to me, ease and grace go together. To me, grace is ease. It's that neutrality. It's that feeling of peace and that, yes, no judgment. I think it has multiple, you can toss in multiple definitions and multiple connotations of what grace is, but it's just this peaceful, loving feeling. And to me, ease and grace go together. That's
Yeah,
my perception of grace. But
yeah. It could be not having, like, when you are a parent and a child spills milk, like it's a child, they spill the milk, you don't get angry. But as an adult, if another adult spills a thing of milk on your table, they're like, ah. So grace is just like that allowance for someone just being, in a way. We did have Jeanette, sorry, saying, great to see you both. And Mark was clarifying, he wasn't saying he was returning, he was saying that we were the return to greatness. And then Judy was offering that grace is a taste of the divine that, and she sent a correction, elevates whatever trial is going on right now. Because
Well,
in that way, grace isn't just this space of allowance and surrendering to the moment. It is also the compassion or the invested interest in elevating whatever it is. So if you're being angry, maybe grace is an elevation of that anger to be constructive anger, to be able to put it into something and not making it a wrong, but kind of like, well, this is what's showing up. Instead of fighting it, what can we create with it?
right. Maybe it's more situation dependent. What is grace in the situation that you're in? Like you mentioned, the spilling of the milk. What is grace? Give the situation grace. Maybe you're angry with someone. What does that mean to give the situation grace? So I think it may be case dependent as well, but to me it always feels like this connotation of ease, um, of just space, of just like everything's okay and everything's going to pass and everything is just it's just this kind of feeling of no judgment, no pressure, no bites, no tripping up, no. It's yeah. It's sometimes maybe if it's hard to put into words, it's a
Yeah,
feeling of
yeah, and I
grace.
started just looking it up, and like the only like the textbook
Definition,
definition, like
textbook definition.
not including church stuff. So just
Hmm.
like grace commonly refers to a smooth and pleasing way of moving, or a polite and thoughtful way of behaving. But if you bring in like the church element, divine grace is a theological term present in many religions. It's defined as the divine influence which operates in humans to regenerate and sanctify, to inspire virtuous impulses, and to impart strength to endure trial and resist temptation, as well as individual virtue or excellence of divine origin.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I kind of like that divine influence. It was kind of like what Judy was saying. Like grace is that taste of the divine and then an elevation. So maybe that we're onto something.
Grace goes along with divinity. It's all kind of wrapped up in one. It's part of that higher elevation. So, was there like 5 points that you wanted to go over today, Hank?
Oh gosh, I forgot all about that.
Oh,
There was something. If somebody in the house is listening and happens to know my conversations with God book, that would be really good for you to bring me. Hint, hint, Anya. Well, I have
Send
it
the
in my
text
hymn book.
message
Well,
downstairs.
no, I didn't remember all five. So like the principle that I was referring to is there in Conversations with God, which are books by Neil Donald Walsh, and is more like it's not a religious God he's talking to. It's more like the container that holds it all, if you want to think of it that way. But he talks about these five attitudes of godliness, and the reason why there are five is not it's like source is what it is, love is what it is, but it's so big and so beyond definition that it cannot. Here's my book. She's sliding it across the floor. She doesn't want to be on camera. Thank you. I have the book, and I'll have to look it up in a second. But just going off the cuff from memory, it's like the total blessing, total gratitude, total allowance, total accepting. One other thing that the idea is that the degree, it's really all the same energy, but it's such a big concept that we have to break it down and have all these little definitions. But the degree that you could be grateful for something, it like bottlenecks you. So the
Yeah.
degree you could be to one thing is the degree I could be gratitude, wherever my max is the same max I could be a blessing and allowance and all these things. But he recommends just pick one to start with. Just pick one. And gratitude was easy for me. When I got sober, I had my little mantra: self pity and gratitude cannot coexist. I have since found that they can coexist. You can both be grateful and be in your own spine at the same time. That's fine.
Mm.
But the idea is that you can use gratitude as a benchmark and always expand on one. And as you expand on one, it kind of bubbles out to the other things. But you can just look at the one thing and really start working on yourself and catching when are you falling subject to Satan, seeing anything as negative, and start to repurpose those thoughts and just become noticing and intentional about what you're thinking and catching yourself. Now I'm going to look up the actual thing if I can find it. But what's everybody else's thoughts? Any more thoughts on grace? Godliness. And I
It's
apologize for my voice. My voice is just kind of me. It sounds very interesting today. Godliness.
I think it might be another full moon. Who knows?
Oh, are we buffering again?
I don't know. Am I frozen again?
For me, you've never froze,
Oh, okay.
or I didn't notice. Maybe I'm freezing. They can tell us that the people watching know who's freezing, or maybe we're both freezing.
Yeah, it spins for me like it goes black. So I don't know if there's some sort of internet thing going on today. But anyway, we're just going to,
Well, and
technology.
I'm also on my tablet instead of my computer, so that might be part of it for me. My computer is in the shop for a whole week.
Oh,
It's in the
it's
shop,
injured.
yes. It is injured. It was at a board meeting for an organization, and so it was on the table, and somebody moved the table, and it fell, and then it broke, and then it needed a hinge and a I don't know. It needed a lot of things, and it's getting fixed. So I'm happy that I'm going to have a functional laptop in a week. It doesn't help me right now, but I got
No.
my cool little tablet. So attitudes of
Grace
godliness. I'm
is
gonna look it up.
too, I think, like even when you say grace, I think when you're in any state of turmoil, even just saying grace, just saying the word carries a vibration because you all know words and the things we say carry vibrations. So when you say grace, in and of itself, I already feel peaceful saying it. So maybe try that as an experiment if you're in a turmoil type of situation, just saying grace, ease and grace, ease and grace, ease and grace, and see if that helps you through whatever moment that is. Because I find that it kind of does. When I'm saying it already, it just puts me in a different mind frame. It creates a different vibration. So that's another thought too, as
Yeah.
we find the whatever we're going over
Yeah. I'm
topics.
not finding it, but like to piggyback off of what you just mentioned, if you look up Dr. Emoto's work, who
Yeah.
you can see a little bit of his stuff in this book. It's amazing, called What the Bleep Do We Know, which is like a compilation of all these cool metaphysical. It's really a book where metaphysics and science overlap, and it's a really cool book. It's a cool documentary. But Dr. Emoto, he would freeze water in relation to different words. So you would freeze water with the word hate and with the word love, and the word hate was all blah, and the word love was this beautiful formation of ice crystals. And his work showed that, like, how your intention impacts how water will freeze and how water interacts. And if you think, Dr. K, what percentage of our body is water?
75, 65 to 75. There's different statistics.
65. Yeah. And of all that is more like 99.9% space, if you think about that. But that's a separate thing. But like when you, like Bruce Lee, he had a great quote. He says, don't speak bad about yourself, not even jokingly, because the body doesn't know the difference. And what if whatever you say out loud, good, bad, or indifferent, the body, being water, is just responding to the vibration of the words you're using. So like speak to your about yourself always kindly. Always, always, always.
Oh, yeah. How often do we do that? I hear that all the time. I'm so stupid. Pardon my
Yeah.
French. What a dumbass. We say these things all the time. So that was stupid. And we say our name, right? That was stupid, Adriana. Why'd you do that? Don't avoid doing that. Catch yourself because your cells, he's right. Your cells don't know the difference.
Yeah. One thing that I like to say because I used to do that a lot, and I like calling myself a silly person. We're just crazy. I don't look at crazy as being a bad thing. And like, what can, like, if you need to say something, like, how can you start to elevate and give yourself a little bit of grace with where you're at? Judy said, grace feels like an invitation to be more like the divine. And the
Mm.
things Hank is about to talk about are the practical ways to practice being grace. And I don't know if I'm going to find those five things, because here's the thing: with Neil Donald Walsh's stuff, I took like a 12-month class, and it spanned all of his books, not just the three that are in here. And I think the five attitudes of godliness actually were talked about in a later book, but were compiled from different spots within the trilogy and they don't exist all together. So I might not find it. I might not find
Okay.
it.
That's okay.
So, but that is okay. And then I was thought, well, let me look up grace, but I don't see the word grace in the index. I can't believe that in this book there's no space for grace. Oh my gosh.
There's no space for grace. What?
Oh, she just said page 63. She found it. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Oh,
Ha 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 ha. Thank you, Judy. Let's see. Five attitudes of godliness. Okay. What is
there's
God's
another
desires? Second, third.
really good book that The Four Agreements is another really great book that we could talk about the four agreements, maybe a later time, because that we're already 15 minutes in and that's kind of a longer conversation. But um, grace, gratitude, we talked about, I think, many eons ago, is one of the highest vibratory emotions. You cannot, I think, be angry and in gratitude at the same time. You cannot be sad and in gratitude at the same time, fully, should I say. You can bounce
Mm-hmm.
back and forth very quickly. But gratitude has saved my life way back when things were kind of rough. That the book, The Magic, that talks a lot about gratitude, and I started the gratitude processes way back then. They were absolutely life saving, and it's changed my whole life. And it can create miracles. If there's any one thing, it's gratitude. And I know there's so many books now that are talking about that, right? Because we're shifting worlds and we're starting to enter a whole new reality, and that's why there's so much chaos. And I had a friend yesterday that messaged me and said there was, I guess, a soldier somewhere in Palestine that lit himself on fire. I didn't look at all that, but I said, don't dive into all that. There are very special souls that are fighting that war. Give the situation grace, and we are in a time where there is a lot of turnover and a lot of chaos, because things have to go into chaos and disorganization first. Things have to be broken down before they can be rebuilt sometimes. So sometimes your whole world falls apart because it has to. So a whole new transition can happen for you. So sometimes it happens. It's not like we just jump one rock and it's like, oh, I'm in a crappy situation now, and tomorrow, yay, everything's perfect. You wouldn't have understand and known the purpose of the transition if you don't go through that. So gratitude is one of those things that no matter how crappy you feel, find something to be grateful for. And that then I think turns into more of a feeling of grace. So I think those kind of go together too. But that's just my
Yeah.
2 cents on that.
And that reminds me of like the first time I was kind of like in self pity mode with my sponsor when I got sober, and I've told this many times on the air that I was really longing to be able to help my dad because I thought he exhibited the same characteristics as me, and I'm like, I wish I could help him. And my sponsor's like, stop right there. You say I'm so grateful that I'm in a place of sobriety that if and when they want help, I can be of service. And it was a complete turnaround because like if you're looking to impose something on someone, like just showing up and being in the space of being available, it's up to the other person to meet you halfway and receive. And that's the grace, is maybe just to be available and to be willing to help elevate, but not with expectation. The five attitudes of godliness uh, are, it's right here. I just have to read it out loud. Come on, Hank. Here we go. Was one paragraph up. In the moment of your total knowing, which moment could come upon you at any time, you too will feel as I do: total joyful, total loving, total accepting, total blessing, total gratitude or grateful. These are the five attitudes of God. And before we are through with this dialogue, I will show you the application of these attitudes in your life. So those are the five things that they're really the same thing, but they're all just different elements of one big whole.
Some concepts in life, I think, are beyond, well, you have to be in a very heightened state to be able to grab it. And everybody's at a different level in life too, that I notice. Some people are not going to hear what you're trying to say in the way that you're trying to say it because they are not there yet. So you all awakened souls are obviously listening to us and getting it. But if we just started talking about this, a giant eagle, people would be like, okay. So I think everybody's at a different level. And sometimes you have to meet somebody where they are. And if you just plant one little seed that they get to think about, that might give them some grace in being in a certain space too.
But plant
So,
the seed as a space of invitation and not declaration, because when we try to, if you share something with the idea that I need to fix them, if only they understood this one thing, it would change everything about how they interact with me. Then for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. You start functioning in the duality, and what is it met with? Resistance. But if it's just like a true, I'm just being, and I'm offering some tips and tricks that I've learned along the road, take it or leave it. I'm not attached to if you receive it or not. It's a whole different thing. It gives them space to actually step into the bubble that your reality tunnel. Were we spinning again?
Yeah, but I don't know who's in.
I saw you glitch this time, like in the Matrix. Like Dr. K was
I don't know
there,
if it's
and then she's
me.
suddenly over here a little bit. I'm like, oh, it's like a black cat walking through.
I don't know if
They
it's
must have
my
fixed the
end.
Matrix.
It's probably my end for some reason. Maybe Spectrum's having issues today. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I prefer to think that it's all the people that just woke up that the Matrix are trying to like undo what we just did. Mark says, "My current ease is eating less and not so frequently. An empty stomach is very empowering. Intermittent fasting is truly changing your life." Wow, Mark, that's great. I know that's been something that I totally expected when I brought your comment up, Mark, that it was going to just be a joke, but I see that like it's something you've been working on. That's so good. Mark is our resident comedian. He oftentimes will just like volley like nice little um, fun things to us. That's really cool. He's also been on TV. We had played his commercials and stuff before. He's been in some things recently, so a lot of good things going for Mark.
he's awesome.
Yeah.
So, was there another point, or is that like
Oh, I
the
lost the
last
page. I don't. Let's see.
page?
Well, there's
63.
maybe following like next week we'll do self love as a combination of this because I don't want to prepare right now for it. But like I just had a this my last couple weeks of sound baths and everything. We had the theme of self, not weeks, but like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We had like 3 different sound events, and the theme that built on itself was all about self love. And one of the things it talked about when you mentioned war and having like we see these things going on, there was one part in the book where they talk about in the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not. And sometimes within the duality, you do need to make choices that don't seem to be a space of grace, but it's kind of like it's still part of the evolution, like having to stand up for something or take a hard action is sometimes warranted. And we can let's talk about it a little bit now, but that could be a whole separate topic that I'm thinking of.
It can. I think a big key to life, if not the key, is to be the observer. A lot of times we dive in. Things are the way they are for a reason. And I'm not saying don't fight for your beliefs or just, oh, whatever, just let everything just happen. However, I think we start diving, we're already having issues in our own life. Then we dive into the things that are happening in the world and into the pain of what's going on in the world. Dr. Dyer talks about this too. I forget what excerpt he had on this, but there was like, why is there such world hunger and world poverty and all these things? But in the end, he talks about maybe Ramdas was telling him that it's in the end, it's all perfect. It is the way it is for a reason. And there is a reason for it versus I think sometimes we get upset and there's a lot behind God's going to punish you. You know, there's a lot of that, you know, with the Catholicism and I'm not going to get into, I think, all that, but it's the whole theory of don't worry that murderer is going to be punished. He's going to go to hell. Who are you to judge? There's things that are beyond us. And when we start diving into these holes of those that, you know, people are going to burn in hell for what they're doing, I know it's lofty, but God does everything and leaves nothing undone. So there is a reason for it all. And I almost picture God as we've personified God, but it's an observation. He just watches because we do it all. And sometimes humanity has to learn. And in a very painful way, the souls have to
Yeah.
go through.
Uh-oh. I think I caught her freezing. Oh no. Or am I frozen? Let me know, people. Do 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 do. Well, I do have something else to read if she doesn't come back. I'll give another second or two. But if you're watching, let me know in the comments. Am I frozen? Is Dr. K frozen? Is she not frozen? And I think she is. We're talking over each other.
Yes, I think I'm having an internet issue this morning. I apologize, guys. I don't know what's going on. I've never had this happen this many times, but anyway, whatever I was saying, hope is golden egg. But I think
Well,
we
yeah.
we dive into the politics of life, the things that are going on in life, and our emotions just go right in there when giving everything grace is an area of that. So
You know, now this is relevant to read because when we talk about all these things happen for a reason, this is from Conversations with God, book one, just a little bit before the Attitudes of Godliness. And he says, and what is God's desire? And God says, I desire first to know and experience myself in all my glory to who I am before I invented you and all the worlds of the universe. It was impossible for me to do so. Second, I desire that you shall know and experience who you are through the power I have given you to create the experience yourself in whatever you choose. And third, I desire for the whole life process to be an experience of constant joy, continuous creation, never ending expansion, and total fulfillment in each moment of now. Now, elsewhere in the book, the part that goes along with this is the concept of duality. If there's only the one thing, in the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not. So, in order to know joy, the opposite must be there. In order to know the glory, the opposite must be there. All these things that were stated, in order to know yourself as a loving person, that when hurt somebody in your reality, these murders and these crimes occur, that doesn't mean that it's something you choose, but it is a waypoint for you to define and declare who you choose to be and experience yourself. So all those things may have purpose. So that fit a little bit into what you were saying. But I saw you glitch again.
yeah, so I may have to hop off and maybe use my phone or something because I'm obviously having some sort of internet issue today, which does not make me happy.
Yeah. Yeah, Debbie, because it's
Giving it
Dr.
grace. It
K.
is me. Yeah,
Our
something.
problem child. Oh. Well, if it happens again, if you want to switch over to something, then I will fill the time talking about something. Well, maybe
Okay.
I'll play a little crystal bowls or something for people.
Maybe I will switch over. Or maybe data will be better, but who knows? But yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any other thoughts on these things and how many of you dive into how many of you turn on the TV first thing in the morning and start looking at the news and diving into what happened in
Well,
wherever, you
TV or
know?
TikTok or other social media, because like nowadays, like I saw a thing just the other day, somebody at a filming production, they were like, "Oh, TV's dying," and the host is like, "What? TV's dying?" He's like, "Everybody's watching it still. It's just in micro chunks on your phone and things." And so like, don't. It's content. It's all content, whether it's TV or TikTok. How many people wake up and the first thing they do is go and check out content? And she's frozen. So I'm stalling. She shall be back, I'm sure. No, but truly, when you think about it, the still small voice that inspires you to choose and elevate your soul experience, to do your soul walk, to merge your life path and your soul path, and all these things, like that comes from a place when there isn't this outside stimulus, when you have like that internal bubbling of inspiration. And when you wake up in that quiet time, like if you're grabbing your phone and the first thing you're doing is checking text messages or going on TikTok or Facebook, you are you're projecting already onto that stillness. It's just like a movie screen. The screen is white, the stillness is there, the inspiration is there, and instead of taking a moment to see what you might get for the day, you start projecting on it already, and sometimes don't even show up for your own experience.
Don't start your day that way
Yeah,
because that sets your whole day.
yeah, you don't want to do that. Did you switch
Um,
devices, or are you still on your computer? Oh no, she froze again. This is going to be a running joke today. I can say I was just seeing if in the book it had anything else about grace, if it's actually in the book here. I'm not seeing it. But for those of you who are just joining this, I'm looking at this trilogy of Conversations with God. It's his three main books. There is a fourth book, though, which I absolutely love. It's called Book Four, Awaken the Species, and it's about humanity, like actually waking up and recognizing, wow, we're a pretty potent species if we actually come for our intended purpose. And it's all about humanity really shifting from the kingdom of me to the kingdom of we, and actually
and that's
coming together. So
what's happening, and that's why there's so much chaos and so much weird stuff going on. that people are getting angry about and diving into each side or the other side. And that's people are trying to figure it out right now. I really think that's what's happening. Everybody's trying to figure themselves out, figure the world out, and it's very wobbly, very
Yeah.
wobbly. So,
And one huge reason that this has happened is actually COVID. COVID was like if you want to use NLP terminology, it was a massive world interrupt. Take everybody out of their routine, shut everything down. I'm just sitting there, me, myself, and my soul, with all this extra free time, and people started to hear that still small voice within, and like they didn't know what they were looking for, but people started looking. I saw more people out in nature during COVID than I've seen. Like it was like amazing how many people started getting back out into nature and just being together, kind of like together with masks and everything. But like it was like this big awakening, and now I think we're still seeing like the ripple effect, pun intended here, because of Dr. K's new branding, the ripple effect of COVID creating opportunities via intuiting divinity. So there you go, COVID.
yeah, but people, there's a lot of people that still have a different, that don't, there's a lot of people
Yeah,
still dot, dot, dot. I'm just going to leave it.
yeah.
So you have to give people grace and just let them get on their journey in the way that they will, instead of trying to fix it all. And I started trying to fix it all. I was like, oh, this and that. And if you go back to some of my videos, I was very passionate about it. And then I backed up and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, 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 no. That is not, that you have to go above that and give people the grace and help them through whatever choices they are trying to make without pushing your views on the situation, because that's a lot of what's going on, pushing the views. I saw another Facebook post, I don't know, it was in the beginning of last week. Oh, wait, just watch what's coming. I was just scrolling. That's what you get for scrolling. But somebody was posting like, watch what's coming. We have another wave of stuff coming. Like there's going to be, it was something about like truck drivers are going to be on protest and there's going to be a food shortage. And, here we go again. It's like, okay, well, if that's what happens, then maybe that's, again, the world is trying to sort itself out and people are trying to figure something out. And they're, it's just like a 2-year-old testing boundaries. We bought back and forth to extremes to try to figure that out.
One thing we could talk about in a future stream are parallel realities and slipping realities and things. Because here's one thing that Bashar talks about, which is a channeler that I started following about a year ago or so. That like from second to second, you're shifting realities and reality tunnels. And one of the things that he talks about is that energy flows where your attention goes. And while there might be all these things happening that you're seeing in the news, you don't necessarily have to have those experiences as part of your immediate reality. And there have been times when I had no awareness of something going on in the world, and I clearly didn't, because my day-to-day life experience did not contain these things. Yet I meet somebody, and in the moment they tell me of something, it's like a ripple effect backwards, where all of a sudden that's my reality, and I can't shake it. It didn't exist until that moment. And one example of this, Melissa of Goddess Elite and I were at a holiday show at Highland Software down in the basement one year. And we're on our phones. We have internet, and we're setting up our square and everything. And it everything's working. And then Anya comes down. I think it was Anya, and she's like, "Oh, by the way, there's no cell phone service down here, so you'll need the Wi-Fi password." And the moment that we had the awareness that there's no internet service or cell service in the basement, both of our phones stopped working. And so like it's just an example of like how powerful we are when you don't know. Or that one, I love that clip of Elmer Fudd. He runs, it's baby Elmer Fudd, he runs off the thing, and like Bugs Bunny's like, "Why didn't you fall?" He's like, "Well, we haven't learned about gravity yet." And he just walks in class air. And then the next scene, he's like off the thing and he's handed a book on physics, and then he's like, "Gravity." So sometimes it's like energy flows where your attention goes. And if you want to focus on the things that you have resistance on, you're actually empowering them to be more substantial and concrete in your life. It doesn't mean that they don't exist, but like, where can you be of service to elevate humanity? Is it focusing on the problem and a friction where you don't have allowance and don't have grace? Or is it focusing in the areas of your life where you do have grace?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Two things I comment on that is we are too lazy to do the work to change. So we like to stay in our comfortable states. We know the resistance, we know the fear, we're comfortable there, we like the anger. even though it takes a bit to get to those other spaces, and most people don't want to do that work. And number two, Dr. Dyer had a very similar point on this too. He talks about when somebody talks about you, but you don't know about it, talking about reality,
Oh
you
boy.
can't get upset. You can't get upset about it. If somebody's talking about you, you can maybe feel the energy, but if somebody tells you you're an orange, but you don't know what an orange is, then how can you get upset? So it's
Mhm.
like if somebody's talking about you, he made a point like somebody had taken some money from him or something, and but he didn't. It was a financial person, and he's like, but I didn't find out about it till 2 years later. So it's like, does a tree make a noise when it falls if there's nobody present to hear it? So it is a reality thing. If you don't know about something, then it can't really upset you until you
Well,
get
until you
grab
find
the
out, yeah.
reality of it. Well, I don't know, to a degree, because you can feel the
No,
energy
well, I feel
talking.
that could be a whole nother like retroactive betrayal reality tunnels is a whole thing into itself. But to your point, like, well, one, if you don't know about it, don't you can't lend it power. But like people, like there was a couple weeks ago, or just a week ago, there was like an unspoken thing that I didn't know the words to, but I definitely knew the energy of, and I was definitely responding as though I had known. So like the people in the empaths and intuitives, you might be like that's if you're starting to act weird and you don't know why. The question is like stop and like, well, what's really going on here? Am I aware of something? There's a lot to potentially look at with that. And the other point that you mentioned, if something's not true, why get mad about it? There's an authenticity coach I follow. He gave an example, and I'll use it for real life. Dr. K, your blue hair is stupid,
Yeah.
right? So like, why do you just laugh that off? Why? Because you don't have blue hair. But like, if someone says you're not valuable or you suck or anything else, like, why empower that either? Because that's also equally not true. So like when people are talking about you, whether it's actually to your face or behind the back, like, is it true? And so either one, if part of it's true and you don't like that part about yourself, what could you be and do to be different? Or if it's not true, let it go. Either way, it's information and you can transform, transmute, and change. But if all you get is you suck, no I don't, there's no movement. So either it's not true or there's an element of truth and I have the power to change it. Either way, you have the ingredients to have forward momentum and elevation and grace.
I
All right.
think there's a couple parts to it, because if you're very sensitive, you're empathic, you may feel when somebody's talking about you. But I think the average person, if somebody across the US is talking about them and saying, man, Sarah's so dumb. I can't believe that's just so stupid. Well, Sarah is not going to get upset because she doesn't know about it until she finds out about it from somebody else 2 weeks later. But at that point in time, she's not sensitive to really maybe feel that. So the average person that's probably maybe not super sensitive, may not get upset about it. So it is your own reality until you energize that thought and go, oh, wait a minute, somebody told me I'm stupid. But the other part of that is every time you talk about somebody, you are sending out a vibration. So don't judge people and
Yeah.
don't talk about people, because
Yeah.
it's you're vomiting. You're energetically vomiting on that person.
Passion puking. That's my favorite way to say it. Passion puking. I
Passion.
love alliteration. And, and the other thing is like people oftentimes accuse you of what they themselves are doing. So
Correct.
if you hear them saying that, like, like, ask yourself, are they projecting their own actions onto me? Maybe they're not always, but oftentimes. And if you find yourself complaining about someone, like if I get off of here and I just say, oh man, that Dr. K, she just didn't have her internet and this and that, and she's technically whatever. Am I really saying I'm technology inept? Like my computer's in the shop because I didn't take care of it, and all this stuff. So like I'm pointing out something that I have my own judgment about. So a lot of times, whatever you're looking at, you have your own self judgment about the thing you're looking at. Cosmic One is
Awesome.
sharing that belief is education, and that's like think about beliefs. Beliefs is all mental. What do you know? Knowing comes from beyond the mental plane. That's what like that's silence. It comes from within. But we have filters and like stained glass, right? Like you have a belief instilled in you from childhood. Now all of a sudden you're receiving all information through that filter and it's tainting that light. But that light from within is unfiltered. So it's like you have to refine both ways. Mark has an opinion about space of grace that we're so full of toxins. Like, can this be part of this too? That we're so full of toxins and decades of poor dieting, people are so sick that they have no motivation or drive. Is it possible that we feel that since we haven't taken care of the body, that the body is like not cooperating with us and we're not motivated just because we're out of congruency with the body and the being?
Yes, it's harder. I think there's number one, there's a lot of pollution and noise. So it's very hard for people to be quiet. And when they do have to be quiet, well, all their crap comes up and they don't want to deal with that because that's painful. So what do? Let's just listen to music. Let's listen to the TV because silence is too painful. So that's point number one. And point number two, I think we try to tell people, I always tell people, be positive, do affirmations. But I think when the physical body is feeling really crappy from food and from, drinking or whatever it is that we do, it's more challenging
Yeah,
to muster up and pull up those feelings of positivity when you do affirmations, because affirmations is not just saying the affirmation, it's the feeling that you generate that starts to pull in magnetic good things for you. But I think, yes, somebody that eats poorly, trying to pull up motivation is way more challenging. Can you do it? Of course. It just takes 10 times the effort.
yeah.
So, yeah, the two go hand in hand for sure.
Yeah, because the body is the vehicle in which you have to initiate all the desires and things of the soul. And if you only, yeah, you got to maintain. It's like your car. If it's misfiring in a cylinder, you need to take care of the car so it can drive correctly. Uh, Cosmic One, I believe Judy says yes. Belief is an opinion. Most people who say they don't believe in something is because generally they don't know anything about it. Possibly, or when we're kids, we put into a place of authority our parents. And whatever mom and dad say, we kind of have that belief. And some of those beliefs come before we even have memories. It's pre-verbal, like you're getting your diaper changed. Mom and dad are arguing about how expensive diapers are, and I'm a burden. And I receive life, I'm a burden. All through the filter, I'm a burden. But then you go through school and and college and everything, and we're taught like corporate efficiency. It's all about putting everybody else first, putting you last, do the thing they hate to have money in order to then do the thing you love on the weekends. Like we have like this
Yeah.
crazy corporate mindset. How can I get the most out of someone, put the least into them as the corporate way? And then we instill that into our day-to-day relationships. How can I get the most out of Dr. K and put the least into her? Like that's a lot how a lot of friendships work, and it crashes and burns because you're not in Aini, which is a shamanic term from the South American tradition, divine reciprocity. But we sometimes, and that's why we have such a problem as receiving in our society, because we are taught that kindness comes with obligation. And oh no, someone wants to do something nice for me, I'm going to have to do something back to them. And when's the other shoe going to drop? And now I'm not receiving.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I just
That
went
took
on a
me a
rant.
while.
We're
That's a
both
very, very
frozen.
good.
Oh no, we're both
We're not
frozen.
frozen.
Well, we're not anymore, but for Mark, we were. And she says that's indoctrination. But it's not just indoctrination of religion; it's indoctrination as society, because we have formed this collective consciousness, and the collective slowly changes over time, slowly, slowly, slowly. Now we're in this rapid evolution that's
Yeah.
occurring, but it's like all these generational teachings and everything's being challenged, and it is harmony through conflict, which is fourth ray energy. That's earth energy for my astrology folks. Like if you were born on Mars and earth was in your chart, earth represents harmony through conflict. That's what we are figuring out on this planet, is how to have harmony through apparent conflict. Anyway, I
Deep
feel like I'm,
conversations. Yeah.
yeah.
But it's true. I had a point and it just went poof, the magic dragon is back.
Oh, yeah, that's
Just,
the first sign of Poop the Magic Dragon. I got to get a
oh,
little. I don't have a dragon, but I'll use Oliver's cat. So we'll have Poof the Magic Cat
poof.
today. I got to get a dragon just for when we have Poof the Magic Dragon. And
But
for
it
those of
is
you who
in
might be first time listeners, that's an old joke that I think Ernie started when we were screaming, and Ernie was like, "Poof, the Magic Dragon." Anyway,
good
did it come
thought.
back?
But yeah, it's you're very right on those things, Hank. We are told certain things, so we have expectations, and it's taken me quite a while. And I think I'm just starting to break free of this whole just allowing and take being able to take. because I feel guilt. I will be vulnerable, come on and feel vulnerable. Anytime anybody does something for me, I feel guilt that I now have to reciprocate because that's how I was taught. Somebody brings you a box of cookies, well, you better fill that and take that back to that neighbor with something
Yeah.
in it. You can't just bring them an empty container back. You don't do that. So we are not allowing ourselves to just receive and say, gosh, thank you so much. I'm half and half on that. Sometimes I'm like, oh, now I got to do something for this person. What am I going to do?
We're collective, and I need divine reciprocity is not a tit for tat thing where like you give me cookies, I give you cookies. If you think of us in trees, they give us oxygen, we give them carbon dioxide. It is not the same thing. Living in harmony does not necessarily mean you're giving back to this person the same thing. In fact, because we're all one, maybe Dr. K gives to me and I pay it forward. We have this big pay forward movement. I'm just she did something nice to me out of inspiration, and it inspires me to be nice, and it inspires those people to be nice. It's not out of obligation, it's out of inspiration. And when it's like that, that's when it can really catch and go. But the second I'm just like, Dr. K, I let you come over for German night, and like you need to totally hand me over now. And
I was thinking about that. I was just thinking
I,
about not for
like for homemade vegan pierogies, please, gluten free too, because you gotta like cater to my diet needs. And yeah, see now look at that entitlement and expectation, and how it just took something joyful of having someone over and like spinning it. Like I don't really feel any of that, just for the for official, but but really things spin really quickly out of control like that because we do have that. Or someone does give you kindness, you receive it in good faith that it's just kindness, and then all of a sudden said, hey, remember when I did that for you, do it to me. That is an opportunity for you to draw a boundary that that's not really alive for me. I'm sorry that you gifted that to me with an expectation. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to go do that for you. That's so that's there's opportunities there. That doesn't mean you're not paying it forward elsewhere energetically.
right. How often do you hear this line? Oh, I'm going to call Mike because he owes me a favor because I did. How often have you done
Oh,
that?
I don't know if I've
I
said
got
that
to
a
call
lot,
my
but I
neighbor because he owes me a favor anyway because I fixed his lawnmower. So I'm going to call him for this. It's like, this is an interesting topic, this whole reciprocity and acceptance and
but
allowance.
but part of
Yeah,
that is we don't feel justified in just asking for the sake of asking. We have been
right.
taught that you have to have reasons and justifications for things, and so I think some of that is just out of habit. But you, there would be nothing wrong with me just saying, Dr. K, I need help. not
Right.
not because
And
you
just,
helped me. I just are you This is what I have going on. It's healthy for me to say what I need. It doesn't mean Dr. K had to say, oh yes, I'm going to help you, but at least having the willingness to be vulnerable to say I need something outside of myself to help with this. And I trust Dr. K enough to ask that person or a stranger or whatever the case is, but not having an expectation that will be yes or no, just the willingness to show up, be vulnerable, ask, and see if you can receive.
and how often do we have an expectation or we get mad because somebody said yes, somebody said no?
Yeah, because we were taught you never
I
say no.
helped
Suit up
her a
and show
year
up.
ago. And and she's not helping me now. It's there's nothing, kids just take. They don't, the kids are a great example, learning example when they're really little. They just take, and they take with full confidence. And there is no, I don't know, it's mom and dad that come over and say thank you. Say thank you. This
Ooh.
is a funny incident that brings up one for me when I was
I feel
really
called out here,
little.
just for the record. I feel really called out. Oh, go ahead.
Why?
Because I tell my kids to say thank you.
Oh, well, no, that's okay. Uh,
I know.
I'm just
Go
saying,
ahead.
like, so we used to have these like parties, and had people over, my parents' friends. And the one lady came over and she's an older lady and she brings me this doll and he was dog ugly. Like, I don't know how old I was, maybe 5 or 6. I was playing with Barbie dolls, right? Then that was the cool thing. So she brings me this doggone ugly doll and she gives it to me. And either she said, like, do you like it? And I'm like, no. And my mom was like mortified, like,
Oh,
you go
my.
say thank you, you go say sorry. And I'm like, and as a child, it's like you have no filters. What is wrong with just speaking your truth and saying, yeah, not my thing. Don't like it.
Well,
No, thank you. You know,
and in that same
but
moment, that other child was
there's
conditioned that
punishment.
it's a wrongness to give a gift and to be rejected. Like, oh, that
That
now I'm
too.
going to be scared to give. So like it goes both ways. Like one child is conditioned like you got to be polite and not speak your truth, and the other kid is conditioned like you can only give if you know it's going to be received okay because it hurts if it's rejected, and it's a
Oh,
double programming.
childhood stuff.
Yeah.
Everything that you have is because of some childhood event. And so I think the next topic is, how do you undo these childhood indoctrinations?
Well,
How do you
that might be a
undo?
10-part episode, 10 parts, part one next week.
Maybe we do that, because that is the biggest challenge. Is okay, great. We've brought attention to and pulled up the fact that there is an issue. Well, great. How do we restructure it, redo it so that the feeling is different? Because now you've created an imprint of that situation. And now there's a compilement of hundreds of imprints of don't do this, be in that box, don't be in that box, to the point that they are triggered in our adult life. And this is how we act. And unless we try to unwind and reprogram that, we're constantly going to be triggered. And most people don't even know that is happening. So
Yeah. That is there's some information. I have found this book. It's called Complex Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder from Surviving to Thriving. And it talks about how when you have a trigger event, and even Zane talks about that, my teacher for the Pakukuna tradition. Like if your emotions, feelings come and go, you might have them for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, but if someone cuts you off and 3 hours later, 3 days later, you are still hung up on this dude cutting you off on the freeway, that's a trigger. And there's something deeper. And like going and diving in, like when you're triggered, your nervous system is actually responding as though it is back from that original imprint event. And
yeah,
and the first step is really just to notice when it's happening. The second step, once you just notice that it's happening, you're observing yourself, you're just like, well, what's underneath that? Because like clearly that's not who I would consciously choose to be. I'm acting for my unconscious there. What's really going on, and how can I make the unconscious conscious so I can now have a more elevated actual choice in those types of moments? Yeah, that's a couple part episode, I'm sure.
yes,
We'll
that's a
see.
lot. It's just like a little child that's 4 or 5 years old is going to walk right up to a lethal snake and pick it up and think nothing of it. Whereas we've been taught that snakes are venomous and they're terrible, and an adult is going to be like, "Oh my god, get away from that." So it's interesting how triggered our brains can get with something that. Have you ever been bitten by a snake? No, but we've been imprinted that these snakes are going to kill you if they bite you. Whereas a
Hmm.
4-year-old, 3-year-old has no acknowledgement of that yet, has never heard that. So it's just going to, oh, how cool, you know? So that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
because
all,
your ego, it only knows past data. Adults have a lot more past data than a kid. So it's kind of makes sense. But like how to guide a child without instilling the fear, with leading the imprint to be in question instead of just avoidance. That's
I wish
big
we had a
questions.
reset button. Sometimes I wish we
We
could,
do. It's
like a
called death.
computer,
Death, and you come back and try again.
try again.
Yeah, come back.
Exactly.
You can even, according to like Neil Donald Walsh's book Home with God, you can even relive the same life again and again and again until you
Oh.
get it just right. And that's
Make
why,
your
like,
chemistry.
sometimes it's deja vu. Like, I've been in this life 20 times, and in this life, I've tried this thing 10 times, and it hasn't worked out so good. So maybe I'll try something different this time.
It's true. It's true. We will relive something until we've learned the lesson, and our soul has check marked that off. It's done. So I don't know. We're kind of running off on
Yep.
tangents here. We ran off on
Yeah.
tangents today.
We ran
But
off in tangents. Any questions from the folks that have stuck with us through our passion puke ramblings and inspirations? So that was a good time. Do you have any programs or anything coming up you want to talk about while we're kind of wrapping up? You
well,
got
I
anything
have a
going on?
detox starting March 4th, but registration ends today. So I had a webinar yesterday.
Ooh.
So we're doing an emotional and physical detox. So you get a kit to clean up your physical body, doing a 4-week Zoom where we'll clean out some emotions and continue on the physical. So it's kind of a all-in-one thing. So if anybody's interested, I guess you can email me. I can send you the direct link that you can just go ahead and sign up if you didn't listen to my webinars. But basically, we're just doing an actual physical detox with supplements, powders, change of diet for 21 days. We're doing a Zoom each week on different topics, coaching on your health or your life. And then the fourth week of the Zooms is just a total deep dive, emotional excavation. So
Very
that's my
cool.
shameless plug.
Yeah, and for me, if you go to hanksutherland.com under events, I have the 7-month apprenticeship program starting with my teacher, Zane. It starts in April, and there is a 12-month payment option, or you can do a deposit, work something out for you. So you can find that on my website. And we are going to be live streaming, me and Melissa, on Thursday talking about the Pakukuna tradition. Or just check out the website. I have, not website, my YouTube. It has all the past episodes where Melissa and I are talking about the Pakukuna tradition, and you've seen some of those elements interwoven in today's topic. So, and next week we'll
Yes.
be back with the healing the inner child or something along those lines.
Along those lines. Releasing and unraveling old paradigms, as Judy says. Yes.
Yeah,
It's
unravel the old paradigms. Yes.
I'm sure there's a ton out there on that. I'm sure there's a ton of people doing that work. And it is work, my friends. But if you want the better life, then you got to kind of get in there and get your hands a little
Yep.
dirty.
And just circling back with something you mentioned at the beginning, like people, they're like, we have these truths and we're bucking at them and we're not staying in the silence. The reason why that's hard work is we're not living our truth. And when we sit in the silence, what we get is a lot of I'm wanting to be here, and now that I'm really tuning in, it's weird that, like, looking at myself in the screen, like figuring out what my hands are doing. I should just look at my hands. But like I want to be here, but I'm actually here. But when you start tuning in, now we're judging ourselves as where we're at, and we have this friction, and it makes it really unsettling to want to dive in to do that work. And we have a ton of resistance until we don't. So maybe it's just like take the leap. And to Mark's point, if your physical body is part of the motivation of whether or not you do the work, then something like a detox, actually going to the gym, that's for me. I know, body. You've been wanting. Yeah, yeah. Okay. This has been a running thing for years, right?
Yes.
Okay. I know. I know. But like, yeah, I might have a good diet, but I'm not like fit by any means. But but like the body is a vehicle, and if you like you don't, if you haven't taken care of the body, like the being can only go so far. It kind of bottlenecks in a way. So like the physical part, the emotional part, the mental part, the spiritual part, they all come together. And to the degree you can go, it's kind of like the 5 attitudes of godliness. The degree you can do one is the bottleneck for all the others. So bring the whole apparatus along for the ride, not just the mind. But we're a very mental society. We wish we could just sit in our kitchens and talk and mental over everything, but you got to get in the muck and start doing the work.
You do. There's no
You
easy
do.
way. And that's why I combine the two because yeah, how am I going to do a affirmation cleansing and all that stuff if your physical body's like dragging because you've eaten poorly. It just makes it harder, I think, to get those things done. So
Very cool. I'm gonna find
yeah,
my little
unless
outro video. That's anybody. Last call for any
last call for
questions,
questions,
comments.
comments.
You got 1 minute, no, 30 seconds. I will hit the final video in 30 seconds. But thank you all for being here. Like, there's some of you that
Yeah,
have stuck
thank
with us the
you.
whole time. It looks like so. I really appreciate that. And we are both available for private sessions. Myself virtually and in person. I think Dr. K is just working
I'm
virtually
virtual.
now.
All virtual.
But yeah. But so yeah. A Nike Kawaki. Thank you. We love you. And we will see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.